Okay, forewarning, I'm gonna be crying in this video. It's happy tears, but, well, it'll be tears. So, hopefully you can hear me too, I'm holding this in my hand. Anyway, so, I was just sitting here getting really emotional about, like, my modeling journey. Like, it seems like out of the blue, I'm like, I have a lot of upcoming events and like I'm being asked to be part of things, and like without really exerting much effort at all, and I'm just like having a hard time like processing that. Having a hard time processing that, like really. So I started basically in 2022. I submitted for the virtual model casting or virtual casting call for my local fashion week. And actually I didn't even make it in the first round. Like in the first round of accepted models, I wasn't on the list. And then, so I didn't go to the first fitting because there's 3. And before the second fitting, they emailed me and said, here's your designer, whatever. And so I went to the second fitting, met my designer, and then they were like, you have the exact measurements of my mannequin, so can you be in a photo shoot too, because like I wouldn't have to alter any of the garments to fit you. And like at that time, sorry, I'm like really emotional today, but at that time, I don't know, it kind of felt like maybe I didn't deserve it, maybe, I don't know exactly, but or it felt like I was only like I wasn't getting it off of my merits as a model or like ability as a model. I was getting it just because of like a fluke, a genetic fluke. I happened to be the same measurements as this mannequin. So I don't know, I had some like, I don't know, imposter syndrome, or I don't know if it was really imposter syndrome, but just some feelings there where I'm like, okay, I wasn't chosen because I'm good at this, I'm chosen because I have the right body, which is like, that's a lot of modeling anyway. But anyway, so I did that show and I did that photo shoot. I was about to say, and they both went really well, but the photo shoot went really well, but the show, I actually like almost almost didn't want to model again after that. And the designer's great, like I love them a lot. But it was a really difficult experience for me, like emotionally and physically. Like it was really, first of all, like scary. Like the runway was kind of like intimidating. Like the material of it was like slippery a little bit, and it was like not a completely flat surface, and I was walking in shoes that didn't really fit properly, on top of the fact that like I don't know if I do now, but definitely at the time, like that was my first time doing a show in heels. Like I really don't wear heels. like ever, because I don't really have occasions to, and I don't wear them in regular everyday life. So I mean, I didn't really know how to walk in them well, and I really struggled, because I'm like, I don't have the muscles to do this, to like hold myself upright, because like the way I think that like a good model walk, you kind of like lean back a little bit, so your center of gravity is back, but that really like engages your core, and my core muscles are very underdeveloped, so even though I tried to practice that way, when I got in the shoes and the gown, I found myself kind of being like more like this, and so I wasn't really engaging my core as much, and I think that like led to me struggling more. So I like, honest to God, like barely made it off that runway, because it was also like super long, and like all of these things, like I seem to be the only person struggling in this way, so it's not like anyone's fault or anything. It was difficult for me specifically, because again, I was a beginner, I don't have the muscles for it, and I don't have the experience to know how to navigate like non-ideal conditions. But so I walked the runway once, but then we did like a final walk with all of us in the collection, and I barely made it off the first time, and I was like, oh my God, I have to do this again. Like this, it was like, it felt like hell. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it off of this runway. And when I made it off the second time, I just like immediately collapsed, like physically and also like into tears. And everyone's like, what's wrong? I'm just like, I'm okay. I just like, this is a stress response. I need to cry it out. Because yeah. And it was also like, there was an emotional component to it too, where like, it was overwhelming to go from like, in my everyday life, like I tend to, I don't know, optimize for like not being seen very much, and like hiding from that. I'm pretty avoidant, and I like to like minimize. Well, I would say I've kind of changed by this point, but back then I really was not used to being very visible and being seen, and to go from that to like a very big finale show, and being seen by that many people and like that intensely, it was very emotionally overwhelming for me. And I don't know, I always thought that like modeling would kind of like fix your self-esteem. Maybe it was a naive belief, but I was like, oh, like that would feel good, because like you're booked off of your looks, so why would you be insecure about your looks? But I think it's not as straightforward and clear-cut as that. I think that there's a lot of feeling beautiful or ugly has a lot, like there's a lot more emotion to it, and a lot more like complex factors affecting it. Like it's not an objective, do people consider me beautiful or do I consider myself beautiful or not. Feeling ugly can also be like a protective measure and like a defense mechanism, an emotional defense mechanism to protect you against like being perceived in a way that feels overwhelming. So like after that show, I took a huge hit to my self-esteem in the sense that I felt really ugly because being perceived on that level was so overwhelming that like my emotional response to that was like, let me feel so ugly that I never put myself in that situation again. Does that make sense? Like, so I don't really remember how long that lasted, but definitely like immediately post show, I just like, it was like a visceral sense of like, like a sense of disgust. And like, I'm so ugly, or I don't know, I can't remember exactly what the feeling was, but something along those lines. And yeah, it definitely took a while to recover from that, and to want to get back out there. Like when that show came around the next year, I was like, I really don't know if I'm gonna do this again. But you know, I thought, well, first of all, I was like, okay, let me just do this because, you know, I want to be in it with my cousin again because he was in it as well, and I thought that was fun, and you know, my brother as well. But then neither of them ended up doing it that second year. So I just, you know, well, I was gonna say by myself, but I had made some friends the first year. Actually, I made more friends the second year, but anyway. But I figured, let me just give it another shot. Maybe that was a fluke, and hold on. Someone texted me. Actually, it's a designer. I'm doing a fitting later today. What was I saying? Oh, I was like, you know, maybe let me just try again. And if I hate it this time, sorry, is that super shaky? If I hate it again, then I won't do it anymore. But before I decided that, I was really inspired by the lady who modeled for is it like Columbia Pictures? Because she was like the model for like the painting, you know, the lady holding the torch in a toga, and that was the only modeling thing she ever did. And I was really inspired by that because sometimes I do something once, and just because I'm good at it doesn't mean that I want to do it again or have to do it again. So I think giving myself that freedom of, if I really don't want to do this, even if I'm good at it, then I don't have to. So I think that was helpful, and you know, my motivation for doing it the second year was really just to have fun and to enjoy the company of the people I was doing it with. I also think like a major contributor to me really enjoying the second year was the first year. It seemed like there was more of a sense of like the models I was around, I can't even remember, like, I don't know, it didn't, maybe because like backstage, wait, I'm trying to think. So the second year we had like designated areas for each like the models of each designer, and it wasn't like in separate rooms or something, it was in the same big room. But there were specific areas to like, okay, you guys are hanging out here, you guys are hanging out here. Whereas before it was just kind of like we were all in one area, so I didn't really, well, I don't know, whatever. Point of the story is that the attitude that I encountered a lot more the first year was like people being super negative and super like complaining about a lot of the aspects, and I was really confused because I'm like, it was people who from what they said, they really wanted to like be a model. But were like complaining about every aspect of it. And I was really confused. I'm like, do you want to be a model? Because like what being a model entails is all of these things you're complaining about. Like it's the kind of hurry up and wait sense of like you have to get your hair and makeup done, and then you have to like sit around for hours and wait for the show. And you know, I forget what other things you have to be there early, like call times are sometimes early for a later show. Okay, I gotta text him back. Okay, wait, what time is it? No, hold on. 2:55. Dang, I really want to keep talking. No, I'll just make a part 2. Okay, I gotta text this designer back.